Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unlocking AI with Google Marketing Platform and Google Cloud. My name's El, and I'm the Managing Director for TRKKN in the UK. And I've been working in the data and analytics space for around 15 years now, partnering with a range of clients ranging from small startup businesses all the way through to some FTSE 100 household brand names. And my career in that time has broadly been defined by a pretty straightforward core objective, right? It's how do we use data, analytics, and technology to deliver better measurement, better marketing performance, and ultimately business growth for clients and our businesses. Now, in the past couple of years, I think we're all experiencing a huge pivotal shift in how we go about addressing this question, particularly due to the explosion of AI. Now, that's a term that comes with excitement, but perhaps also confusion, sometimes frustration, but absolutely, I think, a broadly accepted opportunity moment. So what we've put together in this webinar series is a path to hopefully show you how to take advantage of this key moment in time to ready yourselves and your businesses to leverage the power of the Google ecosystem in its role in unlocking the promise of AI-driven marketing. And we're going to start today with measurement. But before we do, I'll just take a brief moment to introduce ourselves and this series in a little bit more detail. So I think a good place to start is some really big key industry stats. So, what do you need to have in the back of your mind when we're thinking and talking about this topic? And there are three disruptors we tend to highlight when we're discussing this with our clients and talking about their digital maturity. One of which is AI, of course, but also cloud for marketing and first-party data, two themes that you'll have no doubt heard many times before. These disruptors are quickly pushing the bar higher and higher for businesses. And that's actually caused the average digital marketing maturity to decline by 8% in the last 3 years. And what that should say to you is that standing still is no longer an option in this space. It's effectively the same as going backwards. So it's absolutely imperative that to remain competitive, what brands need to do is prioritize their strategies in these three key areas to avoid quickly falling behind peers. Now, we should know what that ultimately means in cold hard cash, right? That's ultimately what it should amount to and boil down to. And what BCG found was that the reward for success in this space is massive. Organizations that capitalize on these opportunities at the highest level report almost 2 times the profitability growth of their lesser maturity peers. So finding the right approach, tools, and specialist partners to unlock those capabilities is incredibly lucrative. And essentially, it's critical to staying ahead of the curve in a certain field or industry. Another factor at play here, and something very close to our hearts at TRKKN, is that we also believe every marketer needs a lens on how they're tackling the Google ecosystem. Many of the stats on the right-hand side will be no surprise to many of you, things we've known for a long time, right? That Google is massively influential as a media destination. The term walled garden gets used to describe, certain media ecosystems, but it could even be more helpful to think of Google as a digital continent. It's becoming increasingly important for marketers to have specialist capabilities and/or partners that help them reach customers at scale in that environment. And therefore, it's no surprise, in my opinion, that Google have created the most extensive and tightly integrated tech stack for advertisers. Although a lot of businesses, including a lot of our clients, perhaps many of you on the call, you might also leverage non-Google solutions in some of the areas we're talking about here. But what we find over and over again is that Google Stack is where marketers see the best results when it comes to reaching that media ecosystem. And what's more, if we refer back to those key disruptors, the Google Stack is feature rich for those most important trends in digital marketing maturity. AI is built in across the GMP products, and you've got powerful applied AI capabilities that you can unlock in Google Cloud. So our webinar series is going to take you on that journey through these products, and we'll show you how you access this power to support your marketing in the now or even very near future. So given that context, it's probably the right moment to introduce who we are in a little bit more detail. Many of you already know or work with us, but for anyone on the call who's not heard of TRKKN or meeting us for the first time, in a nutshell, we're one of Google's largest tech partners. We're born in Germany and founded by 2 ex-Googlers. As such, we've got really strong here in the EMEA region, where we're operating in almost all the major markets. The content and delivery of this series is led by my team here in the UK, but we're really proud to be so well connected across the region and around the world, so we can give our clients the best access to Google platform expertise in all markets, especially for global clients who need support in multiple regions and time zones. We've got capability teams organized by discipline in a way you'd probably expect. So, digital analysts, engineers, data scientists, strategists, even privacy and legal experts, as that's become such a big topic in the past few years. But if you really want to understand, what we do for clients in terms of the value we create, I like to present this as 3 fundamental offerings. So one is we help clients with future-ready measurement. That's everything from auditing data for accuracy, relevance, resilience, ensuring it's presented and visualized well, attributed correctly. So fundamentally, that's about being able to make data-driven decisions with confidence and trust. Everything for us starts with confidence and trust in reliable data. And once we've got clients on that solid foundation, our solutions then branch off into 2 distinct but quite complementary offerings. Next, we've got AI-powered media and personalization, where we help clients leverage the Google stack to drive the best performing media at scale. Our knowledge of the tools, as well as those expert capability teams I talked about, help clients make the best use of their data to deliver marketing performance. And then finally, we have UX and optimization for web and app journeys. So we work with many additional non-Google partners in that space. And here what we're trying to do is ensure the best possible customer experience and ROI for traffic once you've brought it to the website or the app. Now, AI plays a role through each of these offerings. And throughout the series, you're going to see examples of how we've delivered value for clients in each of those topics as we get into them. So what we really want to do is bring to life how we've made this reality for clients we've worked with, and hopefully how you can do that in your business by working with us or other specialist partners. So I'm just about ready to wrap up that intro and bring on our first speaker. Here's just a quick reminder that you're in part 1 of 4 sessions in this series. After today's measurement foundations, you won't want to miss the following 3 episodes. They're going to take you on that step-by-step journey until you're leveraging the most advanced capabilities in Google Cloud and Google Marketing Platform. So if you haven't already got the invites and blocked your diaries for those, please do so. If you've got any questions during the presentation, drop those into the chat. We've got a member of our team reviewing and sharing these. So we'll either address them as we go, we'll come back to them at the end, or if we don't have time, we'll also follow up after the presentation. So just keep that conversation going in the chat and we'll address those. So thank you again for joining us today. I'll now hand you over to Adam Taylor from Google, who's going to introduce the importance of strong measurement for success in AI. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you very much, El. Good morning, everybody. As I said, I'm Adam Taylor. I'm the privacy lead at Google in the UK, coming to you live from a broom cupboard, here it appears, in the Google office in Tottenham Court Road. I'm only given a very small space these days, not a big meeting room, but hopefully you can all hear and see me okay, and we can get into the nuts and bolts of what this session will be. I've been in this role of the privacy lead for Google in the UK for about 4 years now, and it's safe to say that in that time there has been quite substantial change. We've gone through numerous iterations of regulatory developments, technical changes, platform upgrades and changes as well. Lots of things that have ultimately led to, a lot of the times, marketers feeling confused, feeling a bit overwhelmed, and feeling in a position where they're unable to kind of keep pace with what's actually happening in front of them. But what's clear over the last few months and probably the last year or so is that we've entered this new era of AI. In the first few years of working, particularly within this space, definitely saw it as, really trying to kind of find opportunity in a lot of challenging situations. And what we found when AI really came to the fore at the back end of last year and really started playing out in a lot of our products, that it could be a really significant growth driver of a new era for ads. And the opportunity is there for leading marketers to really make sure that they're seizing the moment and setting themselves up for success in the long term. Thank you for the next slide. So today what we're going to talk about is a little bit around the durable measurement foundations. And it was interesting in the poll at the beginning of the webinar here, for those of you that joined, people talking about AI and first-party data being used in the heart of your marketing strategy. And I wonder whether a number of you really realize that some of the features that perhaps you have implemented through our technology stack are very much centered in first-party data and AI. So you're probably further ahead than perhaps you might think. And although they are considered foundations, we're still looking at 30-40% of advertisers in the UK really having fully adopted into these technologies. So if you're any way on this journey, you are much further along than perhaps you're giving yourself credit for. But really what it's about is making sure that this data is then being brought to the Google stack and it's working for you. And that's really what we're going to talk about over the next few slides. So if we skip on to the next one, let's start with, well, as all good marketers would do, with the consumer. I think it's fair to say that we're seeing this kind of complexity is occurring in our industry largely because consumer behavior is changing. There's a proliferation of channels, devices, formats, and it presents so many touch points that one marketer cannot manage alone. And more than half of consumers are using 5 or more online sources before they buy, or they're using things like search, watching an online video, going to maps. All of this kind of like proliferation of channels is happening at an all-time high. And a stat that we quote internally at Google is out of the billions of searches that we see every day, more than 15% of them have never been seen before. So not only do you have to be where consumers are, you also have to be meeting their expectations for relevant, personalized experiences. And if we skip to the next slide, we're also doing this in a time when there's never been greater scrutiny on the work that we do. Decision makers are taking note and ultimately they're taking action. So regulators all over the world have increasingly focused on how businesses capture and use data for marketing purposes. Some, particularly those of us that are based in the European Economic Area, will know that they already require consent for certain marketing and analytics use cases, and others are in active development of that or are going into effect very soon across the world. Although due to recent announcements in the Chrome space, cookies might be staying around for a little bit longer than perhaps we had initially thought, it's clear that ultimately consumers are demanding more and they want more privacy safeguards when they're using different internet services, and marketers need to adapt accordingly. So if we skip to the next slide, ultimately what's different this year is that appropriate changes are necessary to set you up for the long term, and your digital marketing and measurement may rapidly lose effectiveness if you don't actually make these changes within this period. You might find it harder to measure how people are interacting with your ads. You might find it hard to see who took action or even reach consumers that either you know of or are prospects to you in the future. But with this change will really come an opportunity for marketers, and the advent and the era of AI that I mentioned is really bringing about that opportunity, because whilst we are seeing that squeeze in some of the work that we were doing previously, really making things more difficult, this opportunity that AI is bringing has come at the perfect time for marketers to really take opportunity. So how can you win the future and access user data and manage the paths that they're taking and ultimately meet their expectations over time? It's ultimately about gathering and using the highest quality first-party data that you possibly can. Because ultimately, the Google AI that we talk about is only going to be as good as the data that you put into it as your business is. And really what we mean by that is data that you collect on your consumers, data that you have on what works for you as a business are all unique. And using those unique data points, you're able to pass that to us and ultimately point our AI models at the right things. They're built for scale, but they're also built for that deep understanding of you individually and your customers individually to really maximize that. And by investing now and investing in these durable measurement foundations, you can really make sure that you're providing AI the fuel that it needs to really actually significantly help your marketing efforts moving forward. So the solutions that we're going to talk about today ultimately are all the baseline to really set up and start beginning to fuel that AI journey that you'll be on with Google to deliver you stronger growth, more exciting creative, more accurate measurement, all while protecting and respecting user privacy. And the team at TRKKN have done a really good job in categorizing these features into the steps that marketers can take. So Ollie, I'm going to hand over to you now, as we'll introduce a concept of how you can move through this progression. And it'll be interesting to understand how many of you believe that you're perhaps further on the AI journey than perhaps you initially thought. Ollie, over to you.
Thanks, Adam. Really interesting to hear not only the changes in technology, but the new approaches we have to consider in the realm of digital marketing. Hi, everyone. To quickly introduce myself, my name is Ollie, heading up the analytics practice here at London. And Excel, we can go to the next one. But we've heard how important data privacy and durability is on this journey. And through this webinar, we will showcase these solutions from Google that are built to maximize your first-party data, enabling you to get your best foot forward for what is coming with AI. So how do we get there? As with all destinations, we need a roadmap. And if we click on that one, today we'll focus on the foundations of this journey, which are the building blocks for AI. We saw earlier from Elle the number of platforms available for data collection and attribution. And this shows really the complexity of the landscape and the importance of building these foundations for success. Today, we'll take you through some of the features such as consent mode, enhanced conversions, and GA4, and show the benefits of a holistic and durable data strategy. In the next webinar, we'll showcase the methods available to enrich these building blocks for better insights and bidding capabilities. We'll go through how sGTM works and the features available that could really take your data strategy to the next level. And in the final episodes, we will show you how all this comes together to really create a future-proof system with advanced predictive capabilities. Kraken have teams across the world completing projects throughout each of these stages, whether it's starting with a GA4 implementation or consolidating multiple data sources for cloud-based modeling. We have really been able to help clients in a local and multi-market presence. As with all projects, to get the best results, we strive to make sure the right foundations are in place. While the foundations might not be the sexiest of the tasks, they're absolutely fundamental to get the most out of your data now and in the future. So what do these foundations mean for your organization? Ensuring you are collecting the right data points for your business, providing the best visibility of performance, ensuring consent is collected so you know your addressable audience, and utilizing combined data sets across multiple platforms for advanced data modeling. While the journey has historically had similar paths, changes in the technology that Adam's mentioned has really required a fundamental shift in how we collect that data and what we can do with it. So the content of this webinar will hopefully demystify how some of these tools and features work, while showcasing why they're considered the building blocks for AI. So we'll now have Adam start the ball rolling with Google Tag and consent mode.
Lovely, thanks, Ollie. As you rightly said, a lot of this amazing potential for the rest of the kind of the right-hand side of that graph, where ultimately we all aspire to, all begins with a humble tag, the one Google tag. And a fun fact for you, this is internally shortened to OGT, which happens to be the initials of my eldest son, Oliver Gary Taylor. I can promise you that that was not intentional, and I was very shocked when I actually realized that for the first time. But as the graphic will show here today, the Google tag is very much the foundation for pretty much everything that you will do with Google. It's the gateway to our products and brings what matters to you to our platforms and helps you make the most of that data. Most of you, if not all of you, will already have a really good base on your site of the one Google tag. But what's really important when you're starting this process is to really think about the consistency and the structure of that to make sure that it's reflective of the purposes that you need it to do. So really simple tagging audits, making sure that you're structuring that in the right way, that it's applicable across all of your pages and environments, will really make sure that the one Google tag can operate in the most efficient and effective way. But for those of you that don't know, ultimately the Google tag is a single tag that you can deploy to your website, and it will enable a variety of Google's different products and services. So it might be Google Ads, might be Analytics, Campaign Manager, DV360, whatever it might be. It can be implemented directly onto the website, or it can be implemented via Server-Side Tag Manager, which I believe is going to be talked about in a little bit more detail in future sessions. And how it works, it's essentially, as I said, the most important and core component of the Google measurement stack. It ensures conversion measurement can begin, and it uses first-party identifiers like cookies that are set in your own domain and collects user-provided first-party data as well. So it really is the kind of the entry point to everything that we do as a technology business. If you skip on to the next slide, a little bit more detail here just to explain to you how that works, but I would imagine that a number of you on this call will already be well aware and well into your journey with the one Google tag, having done a lot of implementations over the past few years. The main bit of advice here I would give is ensure that that cleanliness and that hygiene is in place to make sure that as you're moving forward, things are being implemented in the correct way, the correct naming conventions, set in a consistent and a reflective manner of the strategy you wish to take moving forward. And ultimately, the one Google tag will be that base point and the entry point for bringing data to our platforms. So once you have that tag and you have that kind of core part of our infrastructure really set into place, ultimately we need to make sure in the European Economic Area that under new regulations, we are collecting and applying appropriate levels of end user consent to those tags and the behavior that then they take. So in order to respect the choices that Google makes and make sure that that tag operates correctly and effectively, we need to make sure that we're communicating that consent status to Google, which is why we ultimately developed the feature called consent mode. Again, I'd like to think that a number of you will have maybe had some battle scars over the last few years of the conversations with consent mode, and you'll have gone through your own personal and professional journey with the feature. But hopefully you'll understand the real significance of the feature and really the forward thinking, I think, of of our product team in bringing this feature to market, which I still believe to be one of the most kind of readily available and scaled ways of passing consent to our industry that's available from all manner of technology companies. Again, a number of you will already know it, but kind of a top level description for those that are perhaps unfamiliar. Consent mode ultimately helps you as advertisers collect and communicate consent signals from end users or data subjects back to Google. It respects user choice, but also enables and supports comprehensive measurement through modeling. And really, consent mode is an important part of a tech stack, particularly again for those advertisers operating in the European Economic Area. So again, I want to just talk through a little bit around the purpose through which we're using that, particularly in our region. As we said earlier, consented data really is the fuel for AI, data is the fuel for AI, and consented data is very much the fuel for that in the European Economic Area in particular. Now, we've long held the requirement that you as advertisers will have to collect and communicate appropriate levels of consent relationships with your end data subjects before that's being sent to Google via the One Google tag. In March of this year, in 2024, with the start of the Digital Markets Act, Google required advertisers to now pass those consent signals to us in a robust and auditable way to help us comply with the requirements under the DMA. So what that meant is that a number of our advertisers went through a position of implementing consent mode to communicate that signal back to Google. So what does it do? Well, ultimately, it dynamically adjusts tag behavior based on that end user consent. So in this example, a user will navigate to your site, website, or app and indicate that consent status for ads and analytics, or potentially for ads personalization. If they say yes, fantastic. Tags can continue to deploy and they will continue to operate as they previously have done and provide you with all of the information, data points, and access that you would have previously had. But it's if they say no that consent mode will really come into its own. Firstly, it will tell Google whether or not we have permission to set those cookies. And if not, then those cookies can be redacted and not set, and we can ensure that we're not collecting anything that the user does not want us to do. When they do not consent, no identifying information is passed to Google. Instead, conversion modeling can essentially kick in to ensure that you as marketers can understand that comprehensive view of marketing performance when perhaps you don't have the end consent for the final conversion fire. And that conversion modeling will surface in your accounts. It will ensure that the data that you're reporting back to the business will be reflective of the true value of your marketing spend, and will give you that ability to really make sure that you're investing in the right areas as we move forward. So consent mode, as I said, allows advertisers to pass that auditable user consent choices to Google and is a fundamental part of our technology stack for advertisers, particularly based in the European Economic Area. And again, Ollie and the team at TRKKN have done some fantastic work with customers on consent mode in particular. Ollie, I think you're going to take us through an example now, which is really interesting to see.
The old mute button. Thanks, Adam. So great to hear. Yeah, the Google tag is indeed the core kind of foundation for measurement and AI. On the topic of consent mode, I'll put a bit of a TRKKN spin on things and demonstrate how it works and the results we have seen as well. So traditionally, we all know how things could be tracked across the internet. Any tag could be placed on your site and data was collected without any limitations. This could then be used to derive insights and optimize content or campaigns, knowing there would be a holistic view of these activities. Overall, old school tracking meant that all visitors could become an addressable audience for digital marketing. With the introduction of consent, we saw a sharp drop, not only in our addressable audiences, but the amount of data we could collect. Having reduced signals limited the types of insights we were generally used to due to data loss. What became important was to adhere to data privacy choices while retaining our addressable audiences for analysis and campaign activation. With Google Consent Mode, we're able to do just this. So with the added benefit of using Google's AI capabilities to recover those lost data signals. Consent Mode provides Google platforms with all available data when users consent. As Adam mentioned, the cookie IDs for ads and analytics. But when users deny the use of cookies, Consent Mode is able to change how the Google tag works to send anonymized data without the use of cookies. So when it gets received by GA4, it is then able to combine these two states of information using its AI to recover what may have originally been lost. But what this means is that campaigns and conversion rates can be calculated from an augmented but holistic data set. So it's important to note that only consented users will have an analytics or advertising ID associated with them for audience activation. I would also like to quickly point out that there are two operating versions of consent mode, basic and advanced. So it's the use of the advanced consent mode, which enables GA4 to use its model data in this way, but both versions ensure Google receives that user consent to manage data privacy and your addressable audiences. Go to the next slide. To showcase the impact of consent mode, we have an online retailer client that went through a new site launch. So this was a global rollout across 4 markets with full e-commerce capability. Prior to the launch, we implemented the advanced version of consent mode across each market. While we had an initial baseline of performance at GA4, we knew from the previous site that visitation was down considerably. After waiting a few weeks for Google's AI to crunch the data it was receiving from consent mode, we saw the notification that model data was available in reports. And as you can see, this brought a significant uplift in reported sessions, which improved conversion attribution. If we click again, so as a representative example, we saw the likes of 41,000 sessions being reported, which was up from 20,000 sessions prior to data modeling. It was also able to recover double the amount of conversions with this feature. So just to note, the amount of data advanced consent mode can recover will be closely aligned with your site opt-in rates. The reason we had such a high uplift here was because we found consent rates were 48% in the UK at the time. So comparing this to the US market, whose opt-in rates were at 98%, bringing a smaller uplift in behavioral modeling, but also showing that the US seems to trust the internet a lot more over there. As you can imagine, having model data really helped the visibility of channel and product performance in the UK. And now I can pass it back to Adam, who will talk about the next feature for our building blocks roadmap.
Thanks very much, Ollie. You'll be very pleased to know that I've named my second born after enhanced conversions, like the first of one Google tag. But we're going to talk a little bit now about the enhanced conversions feature. So we talked at the start around the one Google tag being kind of central to all of the good work you can do. But for many advertisers, you actually collect a lot of really interesting user-generated, user-provided data during that conversion process that can be used to improve the validity of the work that you're doing from a media perspective. And that's where enhanced conversions comes in. At its core, enhanced conversions is a conversion tracking feature that enables much more accurate measurement through utilizing that user-provided data that you capture in the user journey, and you can match it back to the ad exposures they have across Google's media sources. So if we play that out as a particular journey, if we skip on to the next slide. Sorry, we can skip on. Fantastic, thank you. So in this example, you as an advertiser, you're spending your advertising budgets on a Google search campaign or a YouTube campaign. When you're delivering those adverts based on the kind of different criteria that you set within either ads or display video 360, most of the time, for a high percentage of the time, the users that you deliver those ads to are signed into their accounts, their Google accounts, as they're viewing the particular video or they're on the Google search tab, whatever it might be. So therefore, we're able to understand that your ad was exposed to that individual user. Now, if they click on the ad and they go through to your website, we obviously have a click-through connection in most cases that we're able to use as an identifier. But if perhaps they viewed or they look at it and they come back to it at another point, they'll go through to your website and convert. But for say some reason, there is non-identifiers available for us to be able to link that back. If in that conversion tag, you are applying enhanced conversions and actually sending us a user-generated field, so for example, the email address, we're able to then hash that data, securely send it to Google, and then match it back to that ad exposure data that we have of the Google signed-in users. So we do that, and then we surface those additional conversions back into your reporting, so you can really, again, get a fuller picture of the data that you're providing from a marketing perspective and how well that's performing. So enhanced conversions has become a really important product from a Google point of view, not only to better support some of the use cases that we mentioned around data loss, particularly in areas where cookies were being reduced from browsers or from devices, but also in actually providing a robust and durable way of using that first-party identifier and that first-party data to a much greater effect for marketing. Again, Ollie, you've got some great details of how this has been brought to life from a tracking perspective and really hopefully help people understand the real value that this feature can bring.
Sure, thanks, Adam. I'll now quickly show enhanced conversion, how they work through the power of jelly beans once again. So we have seen how consent mode lets us recover traffic and conversions by anonymizing that data before it is sent to Google. Sometimes we do like to think that solves all our problems, but the reality is that Google Ads cookies, when consented and dropped by your website, are considered third-party cookies. So this This is because yourwebsite.com is setting a cookie from google.com, meaning that conversion information is being passed between two different domains. While consent mode ensures the right consent signals are sent to Google, the reality is that some browsers may still block the passing of this information. Hence, we could see now some valuable jelly beans spilling out of my jar, but also known as users who visited your site and provided consent. If we click again, so enhanced conversions comes into play by sending hashed user data, which gets matched by Google to validate that conversion to your campaign at a user level. In essence, if Google know who clicked your ad, enhanced conversions enables us to confirm with more certainty if they converted on your website, improving this data. If Google doesn't find a match, then that data is scrapped. As Adam mentioned on the previous slide, using first-party data and enhanced conversions provides higher quality signals for Google's AI, improving optimizations you'll be able to calculate for your account. So what can this look like in the real world? One of our clients, Open University, are a globally recognized provider of distance education, offering undergraduate, postgraduate, and master's degrees online for over 50 subjects accessible from across the world. With a range of degrees and courses available, there is a constant flow of conversions submitted, inclusive of course applications, information requests, callback requests, and course shortlisting. So Tracken worked with Open Uni to implement enhanced conversions across all of these touch points using Google Tag Manager, ensuring the right data was collected and hashed before being sent to Google, resulting in a 6% increase in conversion volume for their digital campaigns. Do keep in mind that enhanced conversions help to recover some conversions, but also improve the quality of those conversions. But a small percent increase can make a huge difference in return on ad spend and also conversion rates. In all cases, ensuring your campaigns are receiving the right data will help improve accuracy and performance metrics while giving Google's AI more quality data to work with. So we'll now hear from Alice on some new and exciting ways GA4 can help with your data, a part of the roadmap.
Thanks, Ollie. Hi, everyone. I'm Alice Crawley. I'm the Google Analytics specialist based in the same broom cupboard as Adam in London. So really excited to talk to you about Google Analytics 4 today. So for those of you who don't know, Google Analytics 4 is our powerful analytics tool, which has really been built for future changes in the tech ecosystem, in regulations across the globe that you've already been hearing about this morning. It's really trying to help you understand the complex multi-platform journeys that your customers are making across your websites and your apps, and also how your marketing is performing, all while thinking about user privacy. Google Analytics has first-party data and AI in its core. It's got less reliance on cookies than it did before, as you've already heard from Ollie, with an advanced implementation of consent mode. And we really need to get more used to having modeling and relying on AI rather than having that full jar of jelly beans that we've perhaps been used to. So Google Analytics 4 does still collect observed data where we can, where consent has been given and where the operating systems and browsers allow. But where there are these gaps, we can use Google's AI to bring in modeled data to the tool. So whether this is in the form of behavioral modeling, where an advanced consent mode implementation is in place, whether this is conversion modeling, or even data-driven attribution modeling as well. So GA4 is really about enhancing your first-party data with modeling to fill in these gaps. And Google Analytics has always allowed you to collect this data from your websites, your apps, enrich it, either data import or measurement protocol, to make sure you've got a full data set. It can then be used to derive these really powerful business insights, giving you a good view of all of your users. And then probably the most important bit, that to then actually take action on that data. So whether that's through sharing audiences into Google Ads or the Google Marketing Platform, or exporting that data out to join it with other data sets in BigQuery. And after Ollie has taken you through another case, I'm going to talk to you about one of our recent launches, which makes sure that these three core pillars of functionality will still remain in the future with the changes that we're going to see.
Cool, thanks, Alice. So talking about advanced analytics and first-party data activation, so I'm happy to showcase how Tracken were able to help one of our German retailers, Bauer. Bauer are an online fashion and lifestyle retailer with thousands of products and high traffic volume. They were facing a delayed rollout of GA4, which is leading to limitations of their marketing measurement due to the use of legacy analytics platforms. To help bring their tracking capabilities up to speed, we actually developed a new framework to manage their backend product data by sGTM, enabling an easier path for GA4 transition. This also provided the ability to enrich their e-commerce data with more item-specific information that was aligned with their internal reporting KPIs. Ensuring each journey was tracked to specification, including the use of e-commerce data, actually enabled the client to utilize one of the core AI features within GA4, predictive audiences. Predictive audiences gave Bauer the opportunity to create retargeting segments based on things such as users who are likely to make a purchase in the next 7 days, users who are likely to make their first purchase in the next 7 days, and users who are predicted to generate the most revenue in the next 28 days. Having these types of capabilities out of the box can really show the possibilities of predictive analytics. And in some of the upcoming webinars, we will show you how to take these features to the next level.
Thanks, Ollie. So I want to talk about why Google Analytics 4 is the durable measurement solution that you need to power your AI. A lot of functionality has always been based on first-party cookies and identifiers, but some of the key use cases that you see here around measuring user journeys, measuring conversions, and activating audiences have been reliant on third-party cookies. And so we have been busy behind the scenes building different functionality in the background to make sure that these core cases will still work. So I'm going to talk you through a new launch. Go to the next slide, please, Al, called user provided data. So this is a really big change to Google Analytics. And it's a change that is built on top of user ID. And the screenshot here shows how it can be enabled in the user interface. And to explain this feature, I'm going to talk you through an example. So let's say my customer Lizzie goes onto the Google store. I didn't name my child Google Analytics, by the way. She is called Lizzie. That's why she's this example. She goes onto the Google store to look at a new Pixel phone, and she logs in to get her employee discount. So I know that the user is lizzie@gmail.com. But that can't be stored in Google Analytics. We don't allow personally identifiable information. So that's great, but I can't actually do anything with that. But what I can do is I can store a user ID. So this is mapped to a CRM ID in my system, and I can send in that user ID to Google Analytics. That can help me understand Lizzie's behavior across multiple devices and platforms. And it can also be used to import data against Lizzie. So when did she last purchase? The fact that she's an Olympic bronze medalist, or indeed a lioness. I hope you saw the Pixel campaigns that we were running during the football, or how much money she spent in the last 12 months. Anything that's bespoke to me. Nothing new here. We've always been able to do this. But the new part here is we can also send in user provided data. So we can hash Lizzie's email address, send it into Google Analytics. We can then perform a match on the Google side, really similar to what Adam was talking about with enhanced conversions earlier. And that allows us to join the data alongside the Google data. So next slide, please, Al. No surprise, this is the solution that is going to help you across each of these three areas. So user provided data can help us with user journeys by looking at demographics data. So this was previously powered by third-party double-click cookies, if we're still allowed to use that terminology. But this can look at the age, the affinity categories and things like that of users on your own site. User provided data can also help us measure conversions. So this is where the enhanced conversions comes into Google Analytics 4. So really similar to what Adam mentioned earlier, that user sees an ad in the Google sphere and converts on your site. We can then join that conversion to that ad click to make sure that the ad click is getting the correct data through for that conversion that happened. And then just to say, our clients who tested this in our alpha saw a 5% increase in their reported conversion rates. So again, making sure that their AI-powered actions that they're using this data for has got a complete data set. And then lastly, user-provided data is still going to be the way to activate audiences. So customer match will use user-provided data, sorry, next slide please, Elle, to send audiences through to Google search and to YouTube. So again, just from that email address that we hashed and sent to Google, all of these features will work. And so you're saying, Alice, that's great when Lizzie identifies herself and logs into my website, but what about all of those customers who don't identify themselves in some way? This is where we're building integrations with the Privacy Sandbox APIs that will also work in each of these areas. So the Topics API will bring in that demographic and interest data. The Attribution API will bring in the enhanced conversions data, and the Protected Audience API will help you remarket to those users who haven't identified themselves on non-Google owned and operated space. And I hand back over. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. So just before we close off, I'd like to cover 3 key points to take away from our first episode. Firstly, technology is constantly changing, but GA4 is a robust analytic solution that provides flexibility and many activation capabilities. And Alice has just shown us continues to develop with these new features. Just as a side note, if you have any questions on your GA4 account or your setup, TRKKN can offer a free GA4 health check to help optimize your configuration. So feel free to get in touch with anyone from the team. But the second takeaway, the tools such as consent mode and enhanced conversions have been developed by Google to maximize the quality and quantity of your data. When spending money on campaigns, it's important to have the complete picture for your performance. And a second side note, we understand that consent and first-party data can be a topic for a lot of discussion. We have dedicated data protection teams if you would like, or privacy specialists, if you'd like to ask them any of the hard questions. But thirdly, all of these tools provide a substantial foundation for your data. It really helps to put Google's AI capabilities to work for you, strengthening your opportunities for more advanced applications down the line. And Elle, I believe I could pass it to you to close out.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Ollie. And yeah, thanks to everyone who spoke for us today. So yeah, appreciate taking part, Adam and Alice, and everyone who joined. That brings our session to a close this morning. I hope everyone found it useful, took away some valuable insight. I'm incredibly impressed we finished bang on time, but if there's anything you saw or heard that you like and want to kind of discuss in a bit more detail, you've got our information there. There's a form for some feedback, which one of our team will drop into the chat now. We would absolutely love it if you took 60 seconds to just answer a couple of quick questions. Really helps us make sure that we're bringing you the very best content and meaningful kind of conversations to sessions like this in the future. So with that, we will close out. Thank you so much again for joining us this morning. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.